Hey everybody, Michael here with Gaming for Immersion, and today I want to talk about a mod, but going beyond that a little bit, I want to talk about siege battles, and I'm going to make a really controversial statement in this video. Siege battles in regular vanilla Warhammer 3 are not a great experience. And no, that's not the controversial statement I'm going to make. That is not even subjective. That is, I believe, an objective fact. The walled city battles in this game are very suboptimal, and that's why we turn to mods to try to improve them. So the mod in question that I'm going to talk about today is this one right here. It is known as ASSLADDERS BEGONE, Long Live Buildable Ladders. Okay, so the reason I'm going to talk about this one is not because it is an underappreciated one like most of the other mods that I've been covering recently on this channel, but rather because this one has been requested a number of times, and I actually have, I think, some interesting thoughts about this mod that I want to share with all of you all. I want to start a discussion about it because I'm open to being convinced that I'm wrong about it. But first of all, let's go ahead and talk about this one for a second. So it's a good mod, and at the same time, it's a mod that I don't generally use, and that's what I want to talk about. Why is that? Well, before we jump into specifically what this mod does, I want to jump back into game here and talk about what is it about regular walled city battles in Warhammer 3 that is broken. Well, there's actually a couple of different things that's broken. The pathfinding is really bad. There are, quite frankly, any number of ways that previous Total War titles did walled city battles better than what Warhammer Total War does. But the thing that we want to focus on for purposes of this particular video is that attacking a walled city with a frontal assault without taking the time to siege it down, without building any siege weapons or anything like that, is not at all a punishing experience, and it should be. Realistically speaking, as well as from a gameplay perspective, it should be way more difficult, and it should result in way more casualties to just walk right up to a walled city like we can do here with Archaon. Walk right up to a walled city, don't even lay siege to it, just walk up to it and attack it. Climb up the walls, no pause whatsoever, assault the walls, defeat the garrison that's defending those walls, conquer yourself a city, wham bam, and you've got yourself a nice new, really important settlement. And it's just not providing the challenge or the sense of accomplishment that you ought to get for taking a walled city. So there's a couple of ways to go about rectifying that with mods, and one of the ways is to strengthen the garrisons themselves. There's a couple of ways to strengthen the garrisons. You can give them more units, you can give them better units, you can give those units like experience ranks to make them stronger. You can give them buffs. Higher leadership, higher melee defense, things like that in battle. There are mods that do all of those different things. Another way to make it more punishing to attack a walled city is to make it so that it is a much slower process to climb those walls. Or then another way to go about it is to make it so that you can't climb those walls, but instead you have to take the time to build siege weaponry. So that's what this particular mod does. What this forces you to do, let's go back into the mod page here and let's read it out. So, units can no longer get ladders out of thin air in sieges. Besieger armies can now build ladders as siege equipment. So let's take a look at this in action. We would now walk up to a walled city, and as you can see now, there is this option to build siege ladders instead of just having the siege towers and of course the battering rams. And you can build these ladders a little bit faster than you can build the others, which makes sense for a reason that I'm going to get into in just a minute. So now, setting aside the fact that we could go ahead and launch this attack anyway, because as long as you have a single unit with siege attacker, then you can go ahead and launch attacks on walls anyway. It's still not going to be punishing enough walking right up here with a somewhat already damaged army. This is, again, legendary, very hard difficulty. You could easily just auto-resolve this. You would lose a couple of units, but you'd gain yourself the Writhing Fortress here, Walled City Battle, your first Dark Fortress in this campaign, and really not particularly punishing. You fight it manually instead of auto-resolving it, and you would do even better. So, again, the reason for that is because a frontal assault is not as punishing of a battle experience as what it should be. So now that we can see what this mod does, let's talk about alternative ways to accomplish the same thing. And so I'm going to jump back into the mod page here and mention the reason why I don't personally use this mod. And like I say, it's a good mod. It does what it says on the tin. This is going to be the preferred way to resolve this particular fundamental problem in the game for a lot of people. I completely get it. Having said that, I feel like there are better ways to go about making it a more challenging experience. The aforementioned increasing garrisons is one thing that I tend to do. In fact, I'm working on a garrison mod showcase that hopefully I'll have done here fairly soon and talk about why I think you should really seriously consider using a garrison mod in your campaigns. But getting back to this particular point, let's talk about this from both a functional perspective and a realism perspective of taking away the ASSLADDERS. So I understand what people think conceptually. You walk right up and your melee units just seemingly pull ladders out of thin air and walk them up to the walls, lay the ladders, climb up the ladders. I believe that the problem in the game from a realism perspective, and quite frankly from a functional perspective as well, and by functional I mean a way to make the game mechanics work effectively so that it provides a good player experience. The problem is not that these ladders can be created out of thin air. The problem is that it's not punishing enough to climb the walls using ladders. So I personally prefer mods that slow down ladder climbing instead of getting rid of ladders entirely. So why do I think that's better? Well, first of all, from a realism perspective, building ladders in a matter, building ladders when you walk up to a siegeable location, historically speaking, was very easy to do. It does not take very long. We are talking hours to build ladders, not weeks to build ladders like it can take to build some of your more sophisticated siege equipment. So it's really, to me, not unrealistic. Engineers travel with armies, and they're there for this exact purpose, to build equipment to help you on offense or in defense that can be, built in a reasonable time frame. That's why armies traveled with engineers. So, logistics, wagon trains, all of these things are things that we just assume are a part of the armies that are moving around the campaign map. They're just not represented as separate entities. We just sort of abstractly assume that they are a part of armies. So assuming that your army has got, quite frankly, you don't even need engineers to build ladders, right? Everybody knows how to build a ladder. It's pretty doggone simple. So it's not unrealistic to think that an army can walk up to a city in the morning and by evening time have a fair number of ladders built to go ahead and do exactly what you see here. To me, not unrealistic to assume this. So let's go back to the fundamental problem that this game has, which is it's not punishing enough. I prefer the mods that allow you to use the ladders, but they slow down the speed at which you can climb the ladders. And why is that a better solution from a functional perspective? Well, I'm glad you asked that. So, number one, while your units are climbing up the ladders, like right here, they're going very, very slowly using mods that slow down the mod. I like the one that cuts the time in half or even in more than in half. So it's very, very slow for them to climb up these ladders. It can also be fatiguing to climb up the ladders. And so what that means is there's extra time for your units on the walls plus the towers to be shooting into these units as they're climbing up, which means more casualties automatically right out of the gate. And then on top of that, when this first rank of soldiers gets up onto the walls, it's going to take longer for them to be supported by the second rank of soldiers here, and then even longer for the third rank of soldiers. So it compounds upon itself. It's longer that your models who are up there on the wall are fighting outnumbered against the defenders who are defending the walls. So it just provides two different types of additional benefits for the defenders who are on the walls. Very simple to just slow things down, and yet you're already seeing a whole lot of additional challenge for units that are having to use ladders to climb up on the walls. So fundamentally what it goes back to is if it's anything like a fair fight in terms of the size of the two armies, you're then starting to give the defenders a real pronounced advantage, which is all of a sudden going to make it worth your while to start to consider things like laying siege to the settlement for a longer period of time to cause greater attrition, for example. So, or to build yourself better siege weapons, because ladders are now extremely vulnerable, but siege towers begin to look like a better and better option. So that's what we're talking about, is we're talking about adding an extra level of consideration to the decision making of the player, where you have to actually take seriously decisions that in regular vanilla Warhammer you almost don't even have to think about. There's almost never a reason to stop and build siege weapons in regular vanilla Warhammer. Or if you literally don't have any units in your army that has the siege attacker trait, then you just spend the minimum amount of time to build your very first siege weapon. And at that point, it will allow you to launch the attack. And then, like I said, from that point forward, you're not incentivized to siege any longer than that. So hopefully that makes sense. And that, again, goes back to the controversial comment that I was going to make in this video. I believe that there are better ways to approach the fundamental problem in walled city battles than using this particular mod. Again, I will repeat, I think this is a good mod, and for a lot of players, I can see why this is going to be the preferred way that they want to handle it, and it's definitely a good mod if that is your preferred way of handling it. It's just like I said, I think that there are other mods that handle it in a way that is more appealing to me. So anyway, that's really all there is to it. There is one other thing about this mod that I want to mention. I've considered using this mod strictly for point number 3 right here, which is fort battles now play like normal siege battles, allowing you to build siege equipment. To this day, I have never understood why Creative Assembly made this design decision, unless it's just an oversight and they have frankly just been too lazy to ever fix it. But I do not understand why forts in this game, you can't build siege weaponry for them. It's just absurd. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And it's such an annoyance when you have to fight fort battles that I've considered using this mod really just for this third bullet point. The reason why I don't is because fort battles are pretty infrequent in this game. There's really only a couple of factions that you play, whether either as or against, where fort battles really come into play very often, and so for that reason I don't bother to use this particular mod. But again, I just wanted everybody to know that is another thing that this does. So all right, anyway, I'm prepared for people to let me have it. I know that this mod is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. It's got the 5-star rating. It's got lots and lots of ratings. It's not a mod I had even intended to cover because, like I said, I think it's already probably a pretty popular mod. And I have nothing against the mod. It really does do an effective job in terms of what it says it's going to do. I just don't find it to be the most realistic or even the best functional solution to the fundamental problem that the game has. All right, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, and I welcome the feedback. Like I said, I'm prepared for some people to let me have it in case I have missed something obvious, or you just, again, this is only my opinion, so you all are certainly free to disagree with my opinion. Hopefully, I've just justified why I have the opinion that I do. All right, anyway, as always, I appreciate the comments, and as well as I just appreciate everybody for watching and listening. And again, if you have any other mods that you would like me to cover, like this one, I'm only covering it because many people requested that I do, then please let me know about those as well. And then I will go ahead and say goodbye, and I will see you all in the next video.